Hello, everyone. This is Keith Stone with the Center for Hellenic Studies, and I'm here with Greg Nagy, in person this time, and with Sarah and Iliad and Janet. And we are going to talk about the discussion questions for hours 5 and 6 for HeroesX. And to begin, here they are. The hour 5 question is, in hour 5 of H24H, and I'm here channeling Greg because they come from him, but I'm still reading it. In hour 5, it took me twice as long to say what I wanted to say compared to the average length of the other chapters or hours. Sometimes I ask myself,
was it like right now?
Was it worth it? But I ask the question differently here. Do you think that reading the songs of Sappho makes a difference in your overall view of Achilles? And number 6, am I using the word therapeutic accurately enough if I say that the experience of identifying with others is therapeutic? To ask the same question in another way, does the use of the word therapeutic in English correspond accurately enough to the meanings of ancient Greek therapon / therapeuein? If you are more fluent in another language, does that language have a word like therapeutic? And if so, how does it correspond to the meanings of ancient Greek therapon / therapeuein? Right.
So dear Elaine, Janet, Sarah, Keith, do you think that this question resonated enough with our participants? These two questions.
So, as you say, with the first of those questions, there's a lot in hour 5. So it is taking people perhaps that little bit longer to reach the stage of being able to engage with the discussion question. But we do have some replies on this thread, and certainly one thing that quite aside from your question is coming across here and elsewhere in the forum is that they're really enjoying the poetry of Sappho. They think it's beautiful. It's giving them another perspective.
Good. That's all that matters. Good.
But I think one of the themes that's coming in to the responses on your particular question is they're seeing him a little bit more in a rounded way. I think particularly with this bridegroom aspect, I think that's been really helpful for people thinking about that. Was that particularly why you chose to incorporate those? Is that one of the things you're hoping people get from it?
That was one of them, but I think a more basic problem I had was, and we've talked about this a little bit before, is that generally college-age participants, or let's put it another way, people in their late teens, early 20s, seem to like Achilles even less than other people, and I think some people have that surface impression that the Iliad is simply entertainment for men and for people who are interested in things like warfare and the dynamics of violence. And I had thought for a long time that really when it comes to how much creativity goes into the Iliad, the Homeric Iliad, that if I had to measure it by way of gender, that I would say the contribution of women into what the Iliad is about 60%, and the contribution of men is 40%. So I've reached the point where I see so much women's song-making traditions involved that I somehow wanted to get that out into the open, where we deal with song making that is really attributed to women, and where it's not just that I'm saying is that these male practitioners of song culture are channeling women's traditions very, very well. That it's more than that. It's not just channeling, it's actually singing songs that would ordinarily be sung by women. So that's how the Sappho project, shall we say, started. I thought I just have to weave in to this particular part of our reading experience what little we have left from Sappho. So that was one. Second thing is Sappho herself is so easily stereotyped as a personality that is interested only in other women romantically, whereas in real life, as you can see, even from the meager fragments, the song-making of Sappho seems to privilege Achilles as a very attractive, desirable, aestheticized male ideal. So I had not just one reason, but many reasons, but I was still left with the fact that if I ask people to read what I had written up on Hour 5, it's twice as long as anywhere else. And I even say that in the formal, in the most expanded version of the book, that readers should brace themselves. At one point, I even had a section title which was "Interruption." Is what you're going to read next isn't what you expect. We have to take a break. We have to think about Sappho songmaking. So that's why I'm very gratified that there are people out there who found this interruption. It's not really an interruption, this segue, to be important.
I was wondering, Greg, as you were talking just now about women's song-making traditions in the Iliad, I know that lament is a big one of those traditions.
Yes.
But I'm not so sure about others. So could you give an example of another kind?
Another kind is what I would almost want to call love song, except that we don't want to stereotype what a love song is. What I'm thinking about is, another way to say it is romantic themes or stories about falling in love or expressions of love, but it doesn't necessarily have a desired effect. It doesn't have, to put it bluntly, a happy ending. In fact, most of the times it's a tragic ending. And that doesn't take away from the pleasure of hearing love songs. There have been anthropological studies that show that people who hear very sad stories about unrequited love, for example, find it just as pleasurable as any story would be about requited love. So that's, I think, my exhibit A, love songs. And in fact, a lament, as ethnographic work has shown, can easily morph into a love song. A love song can easily morph into a lament. It's one of the reasons that I really like the film version of the English Patient, because the director, Ondatje, that's his name, fell in love with a Transylvanian love song. But when you hear the love song, gee, it sounds like a lament, or to put it another way, laments in Transylvanian song making can often sound like love songs, and vice versa. It's hard to tell them apart, and you shouldn't have to tell them apart. And then when we look back at something like what's happening between Hector and Andromache, in a way it's a love duet, but it's also a lament duet. And in many ways, Hector is singing or expressing things that a woman could just as easily express at a funeral, for that matter. So that's exhibit A, love songs. Other things, well, how about threats, curses? Those could be sung too, or magic formulas, or remedy songs where the singing helps something that's going on in the universe. The list goes on and on.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah. Achilles dying young resonates with people. He died so young. He didn't fulfill many dreams.
Yes.
So he was best of the Achaeans. Now he's transcending into best of the lovers.
Yes,
in a way.
Exactly. And the Iliad doesn't play that up too much, but we have bits and pieces of other song traditions where that dimension of Achilles is played up. And also in paintings, there are clear references to his fame as a lover.
Also, Achilles is connected with Eris, and Eris is Aphrodite's lover.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
and he's so aestheticized of how beautiful he is, how attractive a picture he is, so to speak.
I'm just imagining a soap opera version of the Iliad, where he's the handsome star, just coming onto the stage.
The one thing that was not bad about that very flawed film called Troy, which had a good director, Wolfgang Petersen, that man had done good things, is casting Brad Pitt, I guess. Although, well, I'm not sure. I'll leave it at that. The casting in that film for Menelaus and Agamemnon was very poor. I don't think of them as the Bash brothers, so to speak. My goodness, they were loutish in the film. I didn't even mind their being killed off, spoiler alert, even though that's not supposed to happen in the Iliad. I hope I haven't upset people out there in telling you what happened in the film version.
You can put a little notice at the bottom.
Yes. Don't listen to this if you want to be innocent of what happens in the film version, Troy.
So how about hour 6? I suppose that's even a little farther along. People have still been catching up with hour 5. Hour 6 is even more the case. What was that question again?
Well, it had to do with therapy and
there was one mention of a participant who thought of the French word chaperon for therapy. And,
Oh, that's funny. Oh, I love it.
But chaperon as more, it means more a person who accompanies supervises young people, on social occasions now. So it has lost the therapeutic meaning that it might have had before, but it's lost. So.
Well, the problem for me has always been that, I understand that the languages of Anatolia, that is to say, the landmass that we now call Turkey, that the languages of that part of the world in the 2nd millennium BCE had a word that was primarily concerned with the health of society as embodied in the person of a king. And that's just anthropology 101, that the king is the embodiment of society. So you find that in a wide variety of historically unrelated societies. Fine. And then I can even see that if you have a ritual substitute for the king, then instead of the king having to die to his old self every year and be reborn to a new self so that society can be renewed at New Year's, how that can be transformed into situations where somebody else takes the hit, but the function is still the same, that the body politic is restored. It dies to its old self and is brought back to life as a new, reinvigorated self. So all that is anthropologically okay. Where it gets complicated, I think, is how you automatically translate this into healing, which is what therapeutic in ancient Greek means. It means to cure the ill. And that's where we get the meaning of the borrowing therapeutic and therapy and so on. And that's a little less obvious than meets the eye at first, I think, because sure, if the king dies and is regenerated, then of course the society is regenerated, but is that really a matter of sickness? So that's not obvious.
A parallel might be the return of vegetation in the spring.
Yes.
It doesn't die off because it's sick necessarily.
It just dies off.
It just dies off.
Yeah. So that's where I like to play with this other word, which is formally not related, but in meaning is similar. And here's the way it goes. Pharmakon means drug, medicine, but also remedy. And pharmakos is a scapegoat. And so the idea is if you get rid of the scapegoat, if you eliminate a scapegoat, and I'm using the word eliminate because in Latin lament is boundary. So if you chase the scapegoat out of your city limits, so to speak, or country limits, then something that is polluting has been expelled. The pollution, the dirt has been expelled. And similarly, a pharmakon, a healing drug, presumably when it's administered, expels what is polluting.
So I was looking, if I may, at Patroklos and what was happening with him. And I was looking at Rhapsody 11. He's gone off to find out for Achilles what's been going on. And then he gets waylaid on his way back with Eurypylos or Eurypylos, who's been injured. And the two usual physicians, Podeleros and Macaon, one's been injured himself and the other one's out fighting. And so Patroklos himself takes on the role of actually helping the injured person. He cuts out the arrow, he washes the blood, and you were talking about cleansing, and then he crushes a bitter herb and rubs it on between his hands and spreads it over the wound to kill the pain. So he's really literally putting his own hands on there. When we see him again in 15, it says that he was entertaining him with his conversation and spreading herbs over the wound. So I wondered if you could maybe talk a little bit about that.
So he is, Patroklos is a therapeutic agent. And you've just shown us beautifully with the summary of the plot action there that he actually heals. He's a healer by way of what he does medicinally. So he is, just to play with this word again, therapeutic agent, this combination of words. But now here's something else. When we examine later on in our program the status of cult heroes, how heroes are worshipped by their worshippers, it turns out that they are sometimes formally called healer, and not just the words that we've been talking about. Here's one, iatros, which means not just healer, but physician. And this is often misunderstood by moderns, is why did they give the secret name healer or physician to heroes, and that's because, okay, here's the reason, is in real life, and we have documentation of this, plenty of documentation, prosaic documentation, is if you prayed to the cult hero and offered sacrifice along with prayers, one of the things you were praying for is healing from some kind of illness. And that's why they were called physicians. And here's the best part, where the healing had to do with a formula of, well, you should do this, this, this. The formal word for that in ancient Greek was diagnosis. So the earliest meaning of diagnosis is not what a secular physician, a doctor who's attending your illness, says is the reason for the illness and the way to cure the illness. No, it's the voice of the dead hero, whose conscience is activated long enough for that voice to say, here is the formula. This is what's wrong with you. This is my diagnosis. And then you can take it from there about how to remedy the diagnosis. Isn't that something? So it's all part of the constellation of the hero, not only as a character in storytelling or narrative, as I like to say, to indicate how serious it is, but also as a character that's worshipped for his or her curing powers, healing powers. Heroes are healers. And if you say, my, that's very similar to the way in medieval Christianity, especially, people would pray to saints to cure them of this or that illness. Like Saint Blaise would be a specialist in curing ills affecting the throat. Well, that kind of thing, and this has been shown in many ways, is almost like a continuation of cult of heroes. You see that especially in the Christian East, and less clearly in the Christian West. But the healing aspect of heroes continues in the way saints are venerated in Christianity.
And the interesting thing is that in 11, in Rhapsody 11, the word that is used is pharmaca. And the herbs that Patroklos uses to heal the wound. And that it's mentioned that he learned, he got his healing power from Achilles, who got it from Chiron.
Oh, yes, yes. Yes, so, Achilles learned quite a few things in the cave of the centaur. That's right. That's right. And Achilles and Patroklos kind of take turns being the primary healer. In the end, it's of course Achilles who heals everybody by, in a sense, rescuing the Achaeans through Patroklos, but ultimately through himself from utter destruction. So how do we wind this up to say, well, both Achilles and Patroklos are very therapeutic?
Well, that is a good way to end, because we're also at our time. So
are we out of time?
Yes.
These wonderful moments are always too short, but that's similar to heroic lives, I guess. What can we do?
Okay, well, I'll see you all next time.
Till the next time, and thank you so much, Janet and Ilan and Sarah and Keith. Thank you.